How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to City Skylines. Welcome back to Parks and Plazas. No, Plazas and Promenades. And welcome back to the city, or soon-to-be city, of Nerdholm. In the last episode, we managed to go ahead and expand our population. It's now above 3,800, and more importantly, we managed to go ahead and turn our city center into something that looks a little bit more appealing, and that is certainly a little bit more colorful than it was before. And that is where I would like to start today, because I want to connect this avenue, and I want to connect this avenue to this corner and this corner of Cedar Mall. I want to go ahead and give a few more options in terms for how people can get into Cedar Mall and into our pedestrian area, which I think is going to be important as it continues to grow. So what we can do is come down here and grab ourselves a 4-lane road, and we'll just extend it out by about 10 units that way, and we'll go about 10 units with tree anarchy off in that direction right there. And what I'm thinking we could do is potentially go ahead and take a pedestrian road up there, or a pedestrian street, and then just have this become a part, this right here, become a part of the pedestrian zone. So I think what we'll do is go for the small sandstone pedestrian street with trees, because it's going to look a little bit fancier. And we'll do the same thing over here as well, just going in that direction. Now, we are going to have some issues with the terrain misbehaving because of the decals that I've placed in here. I'm not really too worried about that, though, because we can probably tidy it up a little bit after the fact. But for now, what I am going to go ahead and do is actually get my hands on a, let's see here, 2-lane road with sidewalks. Let's actually go for the standard 2-lane road. And what I'll do is just bring it right in like this. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side as well. So this way, we don't have every building within these squares on or in the pedestrian zone. So these buildings on this road aren't going to be relying on the service point for all of their things, which is actually going to be a good thing. Well, actually, technically, they're not going to be doing that anyway, because we don't have the policy that allows that to happen. But regardless, I think this little road right here might be for the best. I'm also thinking it might not be a bad idea to just set up some priorities and make sure that traffic can just get through here relatively easy. And I think this is probably good enough. Now, let's make sure, and it is within the zone. I was just wanting to make sure it was in the zone. So let's go ahead and figure out the zoning, because at the moment, we do have some demand for commercial zoning. So we could essentially fill up all of these spaces with more commercial zoning, which I think that's what I'm going to do. I think we'll keep it simple and just go for a bunch of commercial zoning in here. And then what we can also do is go ahead and just bring a nice path through here. So let's go for something like the park path with decorations, or, well, we can't use any of the university paths. So yeah, we'll use the park path with decorations and put it straight through there. And I suppose we can do sort of the same thing here. We'll bring it around the service point up to that avenue. And what that makes me want to do is maybe go and get another service point just across the street. It is a little bit expensive, but it should mean that as this area grows, we don't really need another service point for a little while. So as that's building, I want to go ahead and turn my attention back towards all of our residential zoning, because there's something that a lot of these guys are going to be craving, and that little something is education. We don't have any elementary schools, we don't have any high schools, we don't have anyone eligible for high school, but we should probably fix that, and we should probably have a bit of a look into healthcare as well, because as it stands, we also don't have any healthcare. Now, we could eventually look into things like a general hospital, or we could start looking into, well, not a medical laboratory, but we could start looking into, one day, a high-capacity hospital. But for now, obviously, will keep things relatively simple with a medical clinic. It is $10,000. It is $400 per week. And I think putting it right in the middle of Middle District might be for the best. Now, I'm going to put it on this road right here. And what I'm going to do is change that road into a 2-lane road with a median. Because what that's going to do is force the ambulances onto this road back here, which actually seems like a terrible idea. Let's move it to this side. So as ambulances come out, they hit this intersection immediately, which also seems terrible, but it gives them access to this avenue, which means they can essentially get to anywhere relatively quickly. And then cross the street, I suppose we can just go ahead and fill this back up. But around this medical clinic, I'm very tempted to go ahead and just, no, I was going to remove zoning and do some detailing in here, but that would imply that I'm keeping all of this. And I want to leave myself the option of redesigning all of this space as quickly as I possibly can. So let's just put some medical in there. We'll just leave it where it is. We'll have the ambulances come out and cross the road anyway. Now, hold on a minute. they're on the wrong side of the road there. That's new. Okay, well, fair enough. Fair enough. Good for them, I guess. That's, I'm not really sure what's going on there, but okay. We have medical care at the very least, so that should keep people nice and happy. We have all this building up as well, which is hopefully going to keep people nice and happy. And I've got to be honest, I want to do something with this space in here. I don't like that it's completely open, and I also don't like that my terrain painting is messing with the footprint of these buildings. It looks very silly. But I do want to do something with this space, so I'm wondering, can I maybe get away with a road, say, if I did a road here, that would give me zoning back to back with this. So I guess the question becomes, can I do a road like this and connect it down here without it looking silly? And I've got to be honest, I'm not 100% sure that I can. I mean, I can. I'm going to have to get rid of you to do it. But I'm not sure that this is going to look exactly how I want it to look, but we'll give it a shot anyway and see how it goes. So that essentially gives us the space that I'm looking for. I'm wondering, though, if I should take this guy out, take you out, and rebuild this. Ooh, no, you know what? We do want to do it this way, because that's going to divide up these areas and make sure that zoning is done correctly. So let's go ahead and just put this path back in here from left to right and then top to bottom like that. I'm not sure how well that's going to behave with the road that we have here. I don't know if my Sims are going to be able to get on that path or not. But what I can do now is fill up this space, and that's just going to give us a bit more space for buildings to grow. And I think that's going to be a pretty good thing. So we'll go from left to right across there. We'll go and do a road like this and like this. And I suppose that is going to give us a little gap up there at the top corner, which I don't love, but I think we're possibly just going to have to deal with. I could put some trees in there. I could probably detail it. I can probably make this look better than it is, but for now, it'll do the job. We're also seeing noise complaints, which is not ideal. Make sure there's healthcare available. I suppose we should see ambulances coming in here at some point, so hopefully the ambulances can deal with the fact that there's noise complaints from people living in Cedar Mall. Now, speaking of Cedar Mall, I think I'm gonna go ahead and expand it just a little bit further, because I think it's about time we start looking at getting away from this very rigid grid that we have going on. So what I'm gonna do is take this small sandstone pedestrian street, and I want to go, let's say 29, maybe 28. Let's say 29 units up to the edge of the sand. And, well, actually, maybe we do the same thing here as well. 29 units up to there. And then what I'd like to do is I'd like to go I guess, 12 units up to here. And I want to connect those roads just like this. And I'd also like to measure this. That's 10 units. That is 12 units. I'm wondering if I can get a little something here that's not going to look too bad. If I bring you down and I bring you up to there, that looks okay. We can make sure that this road is at ground level, which it should be. And a lot of this is going to have to be elevated. We are probably going to have some keys along this as well. But this does get us away from that grid. I mean, it's still a grid, but there's just an angled part of it now, which is fancier, I guess. It's fancier than this area has been, so I'm okay with that. And the other reason I want to do this is because what I'd like to do is extend this avenue 11 units here, and I want to bring it straight up to, well, let's say right about there. Because what I can do is go ahead and put in a few more of these pedestrian streets, and that's going to give us just a little bit more access to this pedestrian area on that side. And I want to do the same thing on this side as well. So 11 units out here, and then we can go however many units up to, well, I guess here, and we can go ahead and connect across, and we can go ahead and connect across. And again, that just gives us a bit more access to what is essentially going to be a city center. Now, looking at this, we're up to $4,300 in maintenance fees for Cedar Mole. That is a tremendous amount of money. That is a ridiculous amount of money. But I'm hoping that what we can do is turn that into a profit one day. I'm hoping that we can maybe attract a bunch of tourists or just do anything that's maybe going to make us a little bit of money with Cedar Mole. But we'll also, of course, go ahead and just tidy up this, the borders of this district, because it's a little bit too big. We don't quite need all of that space, and that has brought the money down a little bit, which is good. That's what we're looking for. $3,600 rather than comfortably over $4,000. And so what we can also do here is actually go ahead and deal with some of the demand for residential zoning. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that this is residential. I'm going to say that all of this is residential. And we'll do the same thing on this side as well. This isn't going to be a huge amount of residential zoning, but honestly, I'm kind of okay with that, because what I think we could probably do is take out this part of commercial and replace it with residential, take out this part and replace it, and then maybe, actually, looking at it, we might want to be reasonable about this and say that around City Hall probably should, or around the town center, the city square, should probably be commercial. These bits should probably be commercial as well, although this bit, I wonder if we should replace more of this with residential zoning. I feel like this part, for example, could reasonably be residential, and I feel like this part, for example, could reasonably be residential as well. I also want to take out those little sections at the ends, and I'm very tempted to say that we do fill this with residential as well, despite the fact that I always say we never build residential zoning on avenues. This bit, at the very least, can certainly be residential, and this bit can certainly be residential as well. In fact, you know what? So can this, and let's just get some pipes underneath all of this to just get it done and just get it building, because I'm going to sit here and go back and forth all day on whether or not something should be residential or whether it should be commercial. It doesn't really matter. We'll just get all the pipes in, get everything connected, get it building, and then I suppose, well, not then, I guess now, before it builds, we should probably look at leveling some of this out. Now, this is where Move It's going to come in, and what we're going to do is we're going to be selecting buildings and props. We're going to be selecting, we'll select decals just in case. No surfaces, no trees. We want nodes. We want segments. Because what I'm thinking is that really this section of road along the waterfront should probably be the same height as that building. But if we do that, we have a huge cliff And I don't know that I love that. So what if we brought it down to, say, this height? Now, it is still quite a chunky cliff, but it does introduce a little bit of a slope, which I don't totally hate. I am wondering about raising you a little bit. I think those two might be about the same height. So if I go and grab all of these nodes and segments and slope that, that's not too bad. If I grab these guys and I introduce a little bit of a slope right there as well, it's not too bad. I don't know that I love that, but I also don't know that I hate that. So I'm kind of willing to let it go. And then this guy, I'm just going to elevate to this height. And I suppose if I grab all of these nodes here, we can slope this and we can grab all of these guys as well and turn that into a bit of a slope as well. And I guess that just introduces a little bit of height variation. It's nothing too crazy, but it's also, you know, making sure that the city center isn't perfectly flat either. This bit is, although this bit I feel in a way almost should be almost perfectly flat. So I'm going to allow this, and I'm going to have to line this with some keys. But first, let's go ahead and just flatten it out a little bit and see if we can't maybe make it look just a little bit better, because it is a little bit rough looking right now. So we'll go for a relatively small brush, and we'll just hit this with the flattening brush like so. And it does raise things up kind of awkwardly, but we can totally fix that. I just need to fill up the space first, and then if we hit it with a quick smoothing brush, it really should be relatively easy to just make this look the part. And so I think this right here will do the job kind of nicely. It gives us a nice big square where we can put some kind of park, a bunch of plazas, and all that good stuff. It also gives us space where we can quite comfortably do more stuff with residential buildings. Now, annoyingly, it seems as though the game doesn't want to give me residential zoning here, so I'm wondering if I could just update that a little bit and then go ahead and just place a whole bunch of residential zoning in that space, because I do want to fill that up as much as possible. Looking over here, we can kind of do the same thing right about there. And I suppose my hope now is that we'll see the population grow quite comfortably. We'll see this area end up being a good thing. And I'm also noticing we might need to just level a little bit of this out, because it does all need to be about the same height right there, as does this section as well. You just need to be that height, because all I need to do is go ahead and put a key along all of this, and I think it's going to make it look pretty good, especially if we go and happen to use something like the simple C wall, or perhaps the simple city key right here. So we'll line this up just like so, and we'll bring it right across to, I want to say here. And then what we can do is we can line up with this point and bring this guy over to, I'm going to say here. We can connect these all properly shortly. And for this guy, similar story, bring it right to about there. And then once these are leveled and moved around a little bit, I think we're going to have a good thing. Although let me just make sure that all of these nodes and segments are at the same height, because they should be, and they weren't. So now that they are, we can probably connect these together and hopefully turn this all into something that actually looks decent, because I am a little concerned about making such a drastic change to the map this early. But I think if I do it right, I think we'll be okay. So we want to grab all of those nodes, and we want to go and just move this until it touches the pedestrian street, which it very nearly is, just a little bit further to there. And if I just go and lower it to that height, it is virtually seamless. There is a slight seam, but it looks pretty good. So I'm kind of happy with that. So now what I want to do is bring this guy back just a little bit, lower it to that height, and for this guy, we're going to try and connect it. So move this to be about there, we'll go ahead and get it to the same height as the existing quays. This section needs to move along a little bit and stay at the same height. And I guess come out just a little bit whilst staying at the same height. And now, if I can just use Anarchy to connect these, I will be very, very happy. So you to there. And then if I just grab that segment, I think, yeah, that looks pretty good. Again, there is a bit of a seam that you can see, but I'm not super upset about it. I'm not super worried about it. I think it's okay. We'll bring you forward just a little bit. We'll grab you and bring this guy in just a little bit to say there. And if I just get you leveled to this height, I should be able to connect them, and I should be able to curve that section. And now we have a pretty good looking sea wall. And looking at it, I'm very tempted to lower it further so that it is closer to the water, because this seems unreasonably high. Although it does give a castle vibe. So maybe Nerdholm, maybe the center of Nerdholm used to be a castle. That is an option. We could sort of introduce that little bit of lore to the city and see if that's something that sticks. But I think for now, what I'd like to do is just lower all of this land a little bit to try and get the water just a little bit closer to the wall, because there are some sections there where the water is quite far away from it. So something like this will hopefully, let me just, you know what? Let me just lower it manually. We'll take it down to about that height, and that will give us water right up against the wall. It might cause the river to get a little bit weird, actually, but for now, I'm kind of okay with that. And so with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get ourselves another little section of Pedestrian Streets. And I'm just going to do this, and I'm just going to do this. And what I'd like to do is turn off my road guidelines and just sort of do, ooh, I don't like that flashing, this right here and this right here. So we're sort of surrounding the city hall with some pedestrian streets with trees, which I think is going to look quite nice. Now I'm wondering, can I do this? I can. It looks a little bit weird, but I'm going to allow it. And I'm going to do the same thing there. So you can kind of go through that city hall space. And I suppose what we can also do is level you to this height. We can level you to this height. And if we select these guys right here, we can make sure this is a nice neat slope, which it now is. And we can do the same thing right here as well. Just make sure that this is a nice neat slope as well as this guy being, well, whatever it is right there. It's not the neatest, but it does the job. Now, we are still dealing with this problem with the terrain being a little bit weird. The terrain paint specifically is just acting up every time I modify this area. I'm pretty sure if I was to go in and get rid of these decals, it would stop doing that. That's something I kind of noticed. For example, if I go and I grab, let's see here, one of the decals towards the end of this, and I just place it here and here and here, I noticed that when I was using move it to move these guys, okay, now it's not getting weird now. It was getting weird though when I would play around with them in spaces like this and then use move it. It was getting weird. I don't know why it isn't now, but there you go. Okay, this might not be anything to do with terrain paint or decals or anything, but it's a weird thing that's kind of happening every now and then. I've seen a few comments talking about it and suggesting how to fix it. But honestly, I've got no idea. I really don't. I'm not 100% sure what's causing it. I'm not 100% sure how to fix it. I'm not really too worried about it either, to be quite honest. It's not the end of the world. It's something I can deal with. It's, you know, just every now and then I have to go around and remove the paint. That's fine. It's not, you know, there's worse things that City Skylines could be trying to do, you know. If the save corrupted, for example, that would be a bit of a nightmare right about now, I'll be honest. So I'm not super stressed about it. So now that we have this area nicely laid out, it might not be a bad idea to go in and place a few more plazas. But before we do that, I do want to deal with some of the demand that's popping up. So let's go ahead and get ourselves some commercial zoning just on the outskirts of this district on the left there, and also over here on the right. And what we could also, now hold on a minute. Why is there no zoning right here? In fact, I wonder if it would be an idea to not put any commercial zoning there, because it might build on the pedestrian street. And instead, I wonder if I could get away with perhaps building a little carport in there. So just right about there and right about there. And then doing the same thing over on the other side as well. I like that a lot. And I might do the same here as well. Just again, to kind of stop any buildings from popping up on the pedestrian streets where we kind of don't want them. So we'll get some carports here. We'll get some carports down here. And we're going to do the same thing here, which is going to get rid of a couple of buildings. But honestly, I'm okay with that because we don't want any buildings on the pedestrian streets down here that could otherwise be on the avenue. So we'll go ahead and let that all rebuild, and that'll deal with some of the commercial demand that we have. And then we can turn our attention to this space. Or rather, we could turn our attention to this space, but there's one little thing I want to deal with. In fact, possibly two, seeing that crime is popping up here. There's one little thing I want to deal with, and that's education. Because, as I mentioned earlier, we have none. So, let's just go ahead and place an elementary school in here. I'm not really too concerned about where it goes. I think we could probably just drop it right here on the avenue, and that'll help us out a little bit. That's going to give us up to a capacity of 300, which is pretty good. It's certainly could be better, but I'm thinking that with the bus stop around the corner, we might see a decent number of people able to get to the elementary school, and that'll give us some educated Sims who can, I suppose, go and work downtown. Which, by the way, downtown eventually is going to be nothing but high-rises. Well, I say high-rises. What I mean is the wall-to-wall specialization for this district, which I don't believe we unlock until 7,500 people. So there's a little ways to go on that one, but that's okay. I'm not super stressed about it. We just need to be a little bit patient. And we also need to go ahead and make sure these guys down here have some water, because right now they certainly don't. So bring this to here, connect that to there. That'll sort out all of their issues. And I suppose now we can go ahead and turn our attention towards this space right here. And what I want to do with it is just create something that is, I suppose, just a pleasant space to be in. So we'll bring a path back here, and I would like to bring a path sort of around and straight down, and that gives us lights the entire way around this place. And I think what I'm going to do as well is try to keep this as level as I possibly can, so that the footprint of this building actually looks a little bit more, sturdy like this. Obviously, the decal, the terrain is still being the terrain about all of this, but that's okay. I'm not really super stressed about it. I just want this path around the building because I think that's kind of important. I think it just looks right. I'd also like to measure this. It's 9 units. So if I was to go from here to there, that's going to be 9 units. I wonder if I could do a little path right here that just, that just connects all of this together. I can do this, and I can do this. And then I'm wondering, can I maybe grab this segment and just curve it? I can. Can I curve you as well? Is that an option? I don't necessarily know that it is. That's a little bit unfortunate. It would be nice if I could, but maybe I'm gonna have to think differently about this. Maybe something like that, which is a little bit ugly, and to be quite honest, perhaps a little bit too steep. That seems like a health and safety concern. So maybe we maybe we don't do that. Maybe instead we just what is this, 9 across? So in theory, there should be a midpoint somewhere. I think. There should be. I don't think I'm going to be able to get a midpoint, although I could just, I suppose, move it to get a midpoint, say, right about there, and then have this guy, I suppose, go to here, and then maybe to there. I'd like that to be a curve, though. So just something a little bit like this, I think works out really nicely. And then what I could maybe do is just dot a few trees either side of this path up there at the top, and maybe right down here at the bottom as well. And then, of course, just right there in the middle on either side. And you just have something that's a nice little walk down towards the water from the back of City Hall. As for everything else, though, I'm wondering if maybe we want to do a little something like this. And possibly, well, it would be nice if we could get a little something that goes over there as well. I'm wondering if perhaps just connecting right here would be an idea. So something like that, and we could extend this down towards the path, get it to be nice and level with the path as well. Just about there. That doesn't seem as steep as the old path. And this one here, we can just extend it right up to here, maybe lower it just a tiny bit. I don't mind that. I really don't mind that. I think that's okay. And I think what we could do here is just hit it with a little bit of a smoothing brush just to see if it tidies things up, which it does a little bit. It could be better, but it's not the end of the world. I don't really mind this. I think the only thing we really need is something in here that's going to bring people to the space. So let's see if any of the pedestrian area plazas can actually be placed on a path, because they can't. They have to be placed at roadside, which is kind of a problem. That's kind of an issue. Ah, okay. Well, we have these statue plazas, which I think would look really good here and really good here. And I think they do. I think they do look really good there. So let's just go and try to surround the statue plazas with some path here, so that I can nicely sort of, I suppose, reinforce the footprint that these plazas have, similar to how I used paths to reinforce this guy. So we'll select some buildings, we'll select some nodes, we'll grab all of this, we'll grab all of this, and we'll just level it to the height of that building, which creates a little bit of a cliff back here, but I'm okay with that. I'm okay with this being a little bit dynamic. Maybe having some, I don't know, some cliff faces in there will make this look a little bit more interesting when I'm done with it. But I think this right here, so far, is an interesting looking, I guess, city center. And I'm now curious to see what else I can add to it, because I didn't realize I couldn't place plaza type or pedestrian area plaza buildings. Didn't realize I couldn't put them in here. Now, interestingly, I could put a large ice cream stand plaza right there, which means I could put a large food truck plaza right there. And I'm going to be honest, I like that idea. I think that'd be kind of cool. So take that building out. Let's do the food truck plaza here. Let's do the ice cream plaza here. And it's a little weird, so what I'm going to do is flip it, I think, so that it's this way or that way. I think what's weird about it, actually, is the fact that I've painted some grass in there. I don't think it really matters. And what I can do is also use this path to sort of reinforce the footprint. That's going to be my new phrase for this series. We're going to reinforce the footprint and be hiding crimes. Just like this, though. I think that'll be okay. So, select all of this, and object height is going to be here, which is going to cause problems for this sloping road back here, but we'll deal with that. We can grab all of this and set it to this height, which is going to cause problems for this road back here as well, but again, we can deal with that. And now all I need to do is bring these guys up to meet the pedestrian streets. On this side, that is bit more of a challenge than on the other, but that's okay. We'll bring you up to here, and we'll bring you over to about there. And now, I think, if I'm not mistaken, if I just undo, yeah. So we do still have some concrete underneath these plazas, which is fantastic. So on this side, same thing, just take out the bits that I painted. We have the concrete. And that just gives us, I guess, a relatively busy, kind of interesting looking front for the city hall. And it gives us all this space back here to play with, where I suppose we could put more traditional, maybe park-style plazas. Although, thinking about it, I'm pretty sure we actually need a park district in here. And I don't know if I can do that, considering this is a pedestrian zone right now. So we might be dealing with a little bit of a pickle here. And so after a lot more work than I care to admit, I think we've managed to get our hands on something that looks pretty good, actually. I'm really pleased with this as like a little city center space. I think it's nicely detailed, but not too detailed. I think it's nice and colorful, but not too colorful. I think it ties in nicely with our city square, town square, main square, whatever you want to call it. I'm just really pleased with how this little space has turned out. It's good. I think it's a really nice heart for this first pedestrian zone. So what we've got to do next is go ahead and start expanding, I think, away from Cedar Mole. I think we need to start expanding out from Cedar Mole, and I think we need to start going ahead and getting rid of Middle District and Empire Hills, because obviously those were, I'm going to say the B word, they were the batteries that allowed us to start building Cedar Mole, which, given that Cedar Mole is the heart of everything, we need it to be the focus. And so we need everything to be coming away from it rather than everything coming up to meet it. So that's going to be my idea, that's going to be my plan, and that's going to be what I want to do next time, because that's going to do us for today. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. It has been an absolute pleasure, as always. And as always, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.